Coming to you live from a car parked in a Walmart parking lot and a bathroom. This is a Thicc Man Inc.
With your host, Tristan Killian, and ESPN featured athlete, Isaiah Ashley. We are finally able to bring a podcast back to our loyal viewers. Thanks for whoever's tuning into this video. Like the video, subscribe, comment down below any suggestions, what you think about our picks for the upcoming season. And today we're going to be making our NFC record predictions, and the next video will have our AFC record predictions, so tune into that. We're going to be starting with the NFC North, and the NFC North is looking to be one of the toughest divisions, in my opinion, this year. Isaiah, who do you have as your worst team rounding out the bottom of the NFC
Without a doubt,
North?
I think it's the toughest division, and I think we will all agree on the bottom seed. It's going to be the Detroit Lions with a stout 3-13 record, going an impressive 0-6 in division play.
I agree with that. I think the Lions are going to be absolutely horrendous this year. I think Matt Stafford is going to continue to be average with a high-end salary. They do have a solid receiver core with Kenny Golladay and Marvin Jones and decent running back and Kerryon Johnson. But they just, they have that big what's his name? The head
Former
coach.
Patriots guy.
Yeah, I don't know how much I trust him as a head coach in this league, and I have the Lions going 5-11 actually this year, but I don't think they're going to be very good.
Optimistic. 5
last
wins
in the division.
Well, and before we move on, I'd say this: there has not been such a thing as a good running back in Detroit Lions history after Barry Sanders. They went 2.5 years without 100-yard rushing in a game. It's crazy. There is no such thing as a good Detroit running back.
That is definitely true.
But moving up,
Reggie Bush, low-key when he was there. But moving on to the third place in the division, for me, maybe a shocker to few. I actually have the Bears coming in third place in the division, picked by a lot of people to win the division. And I think the offense is going to be a big reason why they're held back this year. Trubisky's a worst QB in the division, even though I talked shit about Stafford just now. Every other quarterback in the division is somewhat proven. They have a very weak receiving core. Tariq Cohen is their bell cow back. They're number one. They don't have a Jordan Howard leading the way rushing, and they have one of the best safety tandems in the league with HaHa Clinton-Dix and Eddie Jackson. But I feel the Vikings and Packers are more complete teams, and I see the Bears putting up a 7-9 record this year.
I thoroughly disagree with you with that. First off, the fact that 7 wins, that's ridiculous. I'll get more into my feelings on the Bears later, but you're underselling their offense and ignoring some key parts of the defense. At my third seed, I have, with a record of 10-6, the Green Bay Packers, which may be a surprise to some, but I'm telling you, they're going to win 10 games. They suffer from the fact that they can't really capitalize on their home field advantage because a lot of their tough home games, like against the Vikings at home, against the Bears at home, come early in the year, so they can't really get that cold weather advantage they have. And I like Aaron Rodgers. I think he's a great quarterback. I just don't think he will be able to carry this offense on his own this year. And despite what people are saying, not much really changed besides the head coach.
So with the Packers going 10-6, even as the third seed, do you have 2 teams from the North making the wild card?
Well,
in the
I got
NFC?
one from the North making the wild card and one from the North taking the division. But yes, I got 2 playoff teams in the NFC North.
I meant 2 wild card teams. Obviously, that's what I meant. So you just have 1 wild card team from that division. Okay.
I could see, though, conceivably the Packers slip into the playoffs. One of the other people I'm thinking about, someone in, say, the NFC East falls out. Maybe someone in the South falls out. This could be a division with 3 playoff teams.
Yeah, I have the Packers a little higher, but as my second seed in the division, I have the Minnesota Vikings. And the defense isn't as good as the Bears, but their offense is centuries better. They have the best wide receiver tandem in the league with Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs. They have Kyle Rudolph. They have Irv Smith Jr., rookie tight end. He could be promising. And also, Kirk Cousins is much better than Mitch Trubisky. And I didn't even get to Dalvin Cook on their offense, who's going to blow. He's going to have
his ACL.
Blow up.
again.
He might blow out his ACL again. That could happen. But I'm excited for the Vikings this season. And I see them they're going to miss the playoffs for me, but they're going to compete and have a 9-7 record.
9-7. See, I have the Vikings also here. I've got them as my 5th seed in the NFC. They're going to sneak into the playoffs with a record of 10-5-1. I'm doing this based on the fact Dalvin Cook is healthy right now. If he gets hurt, that will obviously change. And I'm going to have a little bit of faith in Kirk Cousins. He's hurt me many times before. If he can actually win 1 or 2 games against teams with winning records, they'll be set. They're going to tie one against the Bears because that's a very Vikings thing to do. I'm going to blame someone's kicker on that.
So you have a tie actually predicted for this season?
Yes, I do have a tie predicted. I got 2 ties predicted, but we'll get to that later, much later.
All right, so we obviously heavily disagree. We flip-flopped their 3 and 1 seeds. My 1 seed this year for the NFC North is going to be the Packers, and the Packers are back with a vengeance this year. And I think Aaron Rodgers is going to lead them to a 13-3 record. And I think with him finally healthy, there's nothing that can really stop them. I think him and Matt LaFleur, you can insert the Stephen A. clip there, and they have elite offensive tackles. They filled almost all the holes. Devontae Adams is going to prove why he's a top 5 receiver. Oh, no, not 13-3. I have 11-5, sorry.
Yeah, get out of there with that.
And I have the Packers going 11-5 this year. I was getting ahead of myself.
Well, we have them as a 1-win difference from my prediction. I'm at 10-6. I think the North's going to be better than you do a little bit, obviously. But I've got the Bears as my 4 seed going 11-4-1. They're going to tie one with the Vikings after exchanging missed kicks in an overtime game. But here's the thing with the Bears. Tyreek Cohen is a real running back. He's a modern running back. I see him as a worse version, not that much worse, of Christian McCaffrey. I think they're very comparable. Smaller guys, incredibly fast, will hurt you out of the backfield and through the air. I think he's pretty good. I think Allen Robinson's got some promise. And I think Mitchell Trubisky, everyone called him a project quarterback when the Bears traded up to get him. And you can see there was a big improvement from year 1 to year 2. I think there will be a similar improvement from year 2 to 3. And that is without even touching on the best defense in football, led by Khalil Mack.
I agree that the Bears are going to be one of the top 3 at that. But I think the offense is going to struggle finding their way because Tariq Cohen, I'm just nervous for him being the main guy.
Here's the thing. He was the main guy last year, though. Jordan Howard was not
he was the main guy. Jordan Howard wasn't the workhorse, but he also didn't take a ridiculous amount of touches each game or a ridiculous amount of carries. They don't have much at running back behind him.
I mean,
is my point.
My point there is he can be your first, second, and third down running back.
And on the Christian McCaffrey, Tariq Cohen point, Tariq Cohen's 5 inches shorter than Christian McCaffrey.
I'm saying, though, they're similar play styles out of the backfield. Tariq Cohen's faster than Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey can probably run someone over, but I think he's very, very promising.
I don't know.
Also, a little bit of bias. He's an A&T product from our hometown, so I'll admit my bias there. I think the Bears will be pretty good. They will be a very rough 4 seed for someone. They're only going to be that way because of how good their division is and the good quality teams they have to play throughout the year. They've got a tough schedule. But that's our opinions on the NFC North. Moving on to the NFC South, I think we're both going to agree on the bottom tier of that.
Yeah, the NFC South for me is the Saints, 2 mediocre teams, and then the fucking garbage landfill Bucks.
Well, you just gave away your order, but Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
I think many people have the similar order
worst
here.
Team in football, in my opinion, and
they're not the worst in my opinion, but they're one of the 3 worst.
It's them, Detroit, and a team to be named later, but the Buccaneers have nothing. I cannot think of a single good thing they have besides Ndamukong Suh, and you cannot win games at defensive tackle. Aaron Donald was the best defensive tackle in the league for a long time on some very mediocre Jeff Fisher-led Rams teams. He's just not going to be able to carry that defense. Lord knows what Jameis Winston and the crew are cooking up. Probably some cherry turnovers for the defense, but
And like you said, the Bucks have literally nothing, and I think Jameis Winston is going to continue his downward trend, kind of how you alluded to. I feel sorry for Mike Evans that he has to spend the rest of his time there, and there's not even Fitzmagic or Fitztragic to save
yeah,
them.
it's tragic. Very fun. I will say Mike Evans is good enough
1
to
in
win
15.
them 3 games. Him alone.
Do you have them
3
3
wins.
wins?
How many do you have?
I have them going 1 in 15.
See, that's also a possibility. They're dumpster fire tier. They're competing for the Jameis Winston replacements.
All right, so my third seed is the Falcons, and for me it was tough to judge the Falcons. They're loaded on offense at receiver and running back with Matt Ryan, obviously leading the way quarterback, former MVP, and with them playing the AFC South this year, I think every one of those teams has a very good chance to beat them. I don't have that much else to say on that part, and I have them going 6-10 this year, and they're going to be slightly disappointing.
I've got them going a very pedestrian 8-8. I see him storming out of the gate strong.
Are they the
They're
third
also
seed for
a
you
third
too?
seed, although it doesn't really matter.
Okay.
They're going to go a pedestrian 8-8. They're going to storm out of the gate strong though, and then throughout the year, little ticky-tacky injuries are going to weigh them down. And I think another issue which is not addressed on, which will make them much worse if it happens, Julio Jones is considering holding out. If Julio Jones holds out and they get injured like I think they will conceivably be the worst team in the division. Them and the Bucs will be tanking.
Their defense is very thin as far as depth. Like I can only think of Deion Jones, fucking Desmond Trufant, and there's not
Vic
many
Beasley.
other players. They're Vic Beasley, yeah, but like there's not much depth behind that talent.
Hence why injuries kill them every year. But bouncing up one more spot, I think they technically got the tiebreaker in my predictions. Another pedestrian 8-8, the Carolina Panthers.
And I have the Panthers at the exact same record of 8-8.
Hey, look,
they don't make the playoffs for me. And wait, hold on. Do they make the playoffs for me?
Well, while he's doing that, I'll say that the Panthers' offense is incredibly one-dimensional.
They do not make the playoffs for me.
They've got a lot of people who I think are not really playmakers. They've got Christian McCaffrey, Cam Newton, and no one else. And teams will eventually start to realize they can put 8 or 9 in the box once Cam Newton starts to have lingering shoulder issues. Luke Kuechly's going to get hurt. Greg Olson's probably already hurt. They're just going to they're going to do what the Falcons do, start strong, fade out.
I think their defensive pass rush and ability to stop the run is ridiculous. They have Gerald McCoy, Dontari Poe, Quan Short, Kuechly, and Bruce Irvin all across the D-line and at linebacker. So defensively, for stopping the run and rushing the passer, they're ridiculous amount of talent they have this year.
How many people who you just named do you think are going to be healthy by the end of the year, though?
I don't know.
It's that Carolina weather. It's causing them all injuries. But at the number 1 seed, I don't think anyone really disagrees except diehard Panthers and Falcons fans. I got the New Orleans Saints.
And I think the Saints are set for their revenge tour this NFL season. They're going to take the NFL by storm. Drew Brees is going to continue his old man dominance. The defense is going to continue their subliminal bounties. And Sean Payton is going to win every single pass interference challenge available. He's been studying everything that goes into a pass interference. And with Sean Payton exploiting the rules, Drew Brees the Rock, I have the Saints going 13-3 on the season.
Well, I think you're very close to being right. I got them at 12-4. They've got one of the better defenses, probably debatably the best or the second best offense. They got big name talent all over the place. They've got Zach Wood at long snapper, the man who's disrespected by Madden. And you are right. Sean Payton is going to win them some dumb calls and some dumb games by throwing a little red flag and upsetting everybody. But the Saints, best seed in the NFC, 12-4. I've got a few teams with a 12-4 record. They've got the tiebreakers, though. So, no Saints go.
They are the best. I believe they get the 1 seed for me as well. No, they get the 3 seed actually,
The 3 seed.
at 13-3. So
You got some lofty projections.
I do.
Very inaccurate, but we will have to get to your inaccuracies soon. Now, the division which will no doubt cause the most controversy with my co-host, the one he has the most implicit bias about, is the NFC East. And we are going to start off by talking about
here's where I might
bottom of
piss
the
off
league.
some of our loyal viewers.
Go ahead. Who is your 6 or your 4 seed?
My 4 seed is the Redskins, and I think the Redskins are going to go through a hazy season trying to find their way with a starting QB and team overall. I believe Dwayne Haskins isn't going to put a firm hold on the job. We may see their backup.
I mean, Dwayne Haskins
I
isn't
think
their
he's
week
going.
1 starter. It's Case Keenum.
I know. I just think I think he's inevitably going to be starting this year, and I think he's going to go through a lot of growing pains. Their defense, they rent it from Alabama.
Their defense is Alabama products. I mean, you say that like it's a bad thing. Alabama's always the best defense in college.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a rough season for them, growing together as a unit, and I have them going 4-12 this year.
Well, you're almost drawing the record. You're off by 1 the seed. I will say that the Redskins, I do have a decent amount to talk about them, but at my 4 seed, he knew it was coming, you knew it was coming, dears. I have the New York Football Giants with a pedestrian 3-13. And I went through, looked at all the games, and I asked myself this question. Are the New York Giants going to be able to win this game alone with Saquon Barkley? And I thought about the last time a team like this was in a position like this with the 2011 Minnesota Vikings and Adrian Peterson. And I got to say, the year before and the year after, AP couldn't win them games by himself. And I don't think Saquon's going to be able to win them games by himself.
I wholeheartedly disagree. I'll get into that in a couple minutes when I'm talking about the Giants.
I can go through their entire schedule if you'd like. They're not winning week 1.
I can go through their entire schedule,
Since this is going to be controversial, I'm going to be quick. They're not winning week 1 on the road against the Dallas Cowboys, especially after Zeke re-signed. That hurts them. One of the most controversial games, I think the Bills are actually going to be decent this year. They're not beating Josh Allen and the crew. You don't like that. They're going to beat the Bucs. Congratulations. That's a big deal for you guys. They're going to beat the Redskins. They are going to lose to the Vikings. I don't think that's that controversial. You said the Vikings would be 9-7, winning record. They're going to enjoy a zesty loss to the New England Patriots on the road. No amount of Eli magic or Daniel Jones match is going to get them out of that. Hey, they're going to beat the Cardinals, their last win of the year in week 7. And then they're going to have to face the Lions. Terrible team, but hey, terrible team right back at you. They're going to have a spectacular matchup with the Dallas Cowboys at home. That'll be a close
I wholeheartedly disagree with everything
They're going
to
lose the Battle of New York in week 10 to the Jets because they got Le'Veon Bell, the best running back in town. They're going to have their best week of the year in week 11, otherwise known as their bye week. They're going to have to go back out there and get massacred by the Bears on the road. They're going to have to play the Packers. That's not going to be a fun game to watch as their secondary gets picked apart. They're going to face the Eagles. Oh, boy, rivalry game. I hope we don't lose by 50. And look at that. Look at that. They're going to lose to the Miami Dolphins. The most controversial, in my opinions. And finally, they're going to cap it off with another spectacular loss to the Eagles.
Now, I think everything you said is blasphemous, to put it in the words of Stephen A. Smith.
And I'm going to... wrong. They're actually going to go 13-3.
I think the Giants are going to have a much better record than 13-3. But I am going to respond to that and why I think the Giants are going to be actually a very solid team this year.
Before you go into that, I'm just going to interrupt you briefly. He's got the Giants at his 3 or 2 seed. Here are the Redskins in my 3 seed. They don't have an identity, but at the same time, Dwayne Haskins will take over. He was very good. They've got a good O-line. Darius Geis was the steal of the draft, in my opinion, falling down to the 3rd round because of personality issues, and they can running back by committee him with Chris Thompson and Adrian Peterson. And defense, definition of average. They're going to win 5 games.
For my 3 seed, I have the Dallas Cowboys. And the Dallas Cowboys roster is very solid. But I believe with a combination of Dak not being a top 12 quarterback in the league, he's going to be throwing ducks. I believe that it's going to take a couple weeks for Zeke to get integrated back into the offense, and they are going to lose week 1 to the New
I'm
York
going to say
Giants.
it's
I'm
very
just going to put
fortunate
it
they've got
out
a
there.
bye week 1, so Dak and Zeke can get used to working with each other.
And the Cowboys all the time they go 8-8. They go 8-8 almost every year. That's how what's his face keeps a job.
What were they
So
last year?
well, they had a better record last year.
What were they last year? Because I can guarantee you it was not 8-8. And you want to know what they were the year before? In contention for the first overall pick. That's how you got Saquon. But keep going with your bias.
Okay, so with the 2 seed, I have the New York Giants, a prediction that most people are going to disagree with here. Most people have them going 5 wins or less. And I think the Giants are going to be the surprise of the NFL this year, obviously. And when you take a look at their schedule, for me, I believe it is very possible for them to make the playoffs and get a 9-7 record. They play against the AFC East, consisting of the Bills, Jets, and Dolphins, all games that they're going to win. They also play the Redskins twice a year. Every Cowboys-Giants matchup is always close, no matter if the Giants are the better team, Cowboys are the worst team, vice versa. So I think they're going to split that. I think they're going to be able to get one off of the Eagles later in the year when they finally have Golden Tate back from, his fertility
suspension.
PD suspension. And they also play the Bucks, so I think that's going to be a win for them. And they're going to make the play. I think they're going to make the playoffs barely as one of the wildcard teams with 9-7, as I previously stated.
So just to be clear, because I'm not a huge lover of talking about the Giants, you have predicted that 6 teams will not get at least 10 wins in the NFC. You've said that.
Okay. Yes. The NFC is very top-heavy for me because I have – let me see. Let me take a look here. I have 3 teams winning 13 games.
Okay.
So there's a lot of wins at the top for me.
Now I'm going to address what you said about the Cowboys. Now, grievously wrong you are. They have the best offensive line in the division. They have quite possibly the best defense in the division. It's either them or the Eagles. Those are the 2 options. Giants aren't in that conversation, and you know it. They have arguably the best running back in the division in Ezekiel Elliott. And they've got the best receiver in the division in Amari Cooper.
See, I disagree because I think that
Sterling Shepard
Saquon's a better running back than Zeke.
Even so,
I think Saquon's better than Zeke.
I will give you that. I will concede that point to you. But at the same time, how much better is he and how much better is that O-line in Dallas and New York?
Well, sometimes a better team doesn't always win. The Giants beat the greatest regular season of all time in the Super Bowl in 2007. So that right there shows that sometimes a worse team, air quotes, can pull something off.
Okay, going back to the logical predictions.
And just because they have a better roster doesn't. All right, go back to your air quotes logical predictions.
With a 10-6 record, I have the Philadelphia Eagles. I think 10-6 is very realistic. I think they're going to start off strong. They're going to be, I'd say, 10-4 at one point here. And then they're going to lose out with Josh McCown as their quarterback the last 2 weeks of the year. And then get blasted in the playoffs.
All right. Me on the Eagles, I think they're the most put-together team in the division, and they're going to have a very good record this year because they're facing the AFC East, like I stated with the Giants. They also have 2 easy wins against the Redskins. I obviously don't think the Giants and Cowboys are easy wins. And as long as they have Carson healthy for me, they're going to dominate this year. Season, and I see them winning the division with a 13-3 record.
I think that's a dead eye. I've got the Cowboys at the 1 for the reason I've discussed. They are arguably the best at every position in the division besides quarterback, which I'd give Carson Wentz a nod over Dak Prescott, assuming his health, and maybe running back. That's still to be decided in Saquon Barkley's second year. But they are a very elite team, well constructed. Jerry Jones opened his purse and has supplied the Cowboys one of the best teams they've had in a long time.
Oh, yeah. Did you see Zeke's suspect nose rings?
And look, the nose rings, they break the wind going across his face. If anything, it's going to make him faster.
It's a great idea. He probably wants to take him out beforehand.
No, he's going to leave him in there. Why? People going to be sticking fingers up his nose through his face mask? Come on, son.
All right. So the NFC West, moving on. And this division, for me, is a major split between two amazing teams and two lackluster teams.
I'm curious where you found the second amazing team in this division, but...
And rounding out the bottom of the division for me is the Arizona Cardinals. And the Cardinals are going to be awful this year. They're going to be garbage for me. With the exception of Kyler Murray, I think everyone else is going to be fucking trash. And they're playing behind a horrendous offensive line. And that's why I think Kyler might also struggle. He's going to have some bright spots. And I just see him going 2-14 this year. There's not much else to say about that, except they're just going to be bad and probably fire their GM.
They quite possibly will fire their GM. I will say they've retooled their O-line a little bit. I don't think it's going to be the absolute worst in the league anymore. I could still see it being bottom 10 pretty easily. In fact, I think it'll be right there about the 9th or 10th worst line in the league. But they've got some offensive firepower in David Johnson, very good running back. We haven't really been able to see what he's done due to play calling. They've got a new coach in there, so hopefully that'll change. Kyler Murray, who was the number one quarterback taken in the draft, the number one prospect for a lot of people, he's going to have a lot of problems. Works great with a terrible offensive line because he's faster than Daniel Jones, Will Grier, and Dwayne Haskins, so he can run for his life better. And then you've got Larry Fitzgerald, who will never retire and may put up another 1,000-yard season. Who knows?
5-11, my 3 seed,
by the way.
You think the Cardinals are winning 5 games?
5 games. Think about it. They get to play the Giants.
Oh, they get to play the Giants. Ugh. All right. So, I just think that's ridiculous because there's like no one else on the Cardinals roster. The Cardinals are not a better team than the Giants. That's just
true, but they play a weaker division, in my opinion.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, the 49ers.
Speaking of the 49ers,
I don't know. I think the division's about even. I have the 49ers as my 3 seed. They're going to be very disappointing for everyone and San Francisco fans. I don't think you're in for a treat this year with the way the 49ers are going to perform on the field. I think Garoppolo is going to be horrendous, opposite of his nickname. He's going to show his true colors, what he was like right before his injury. Their roster isn't built that well, with the exception of their D-line. And they have 2 of the best teams in the league, in my opinion, ahead of them with the Seahawks and Rams. And I think you're going to see a lot of growing pains, maybe a few people fired, and the 49ers are going to finish with a measly record of 4-12.
A measly 4-12, you say? Just a gosh darn puny 4-12.
A puny 4-12, yes.
Well, here's the dealio with that, Old Bean. I don't necessarily disagree with what you said. I think they've got a very good defensive line. Probably the best one in the league. I hesitantly say. Depends how good the Bosa brother is.
I think the Bears' defensive line is probably better.
Knox, a defensive end or a outside linebacker. But regardless.
I mean, he's a defensive end regardless, yeah.
I think they've got some decent pieces on offense. I think Garoppolo is going to be not terrible. He's a good quarterback. He's just not exactly in a great system. And who can forget Richard Sherman? Huzzah. I don't think Richard Sherman's going to win him a game with a big pick 6 somewhere down the line.
With the Achilles injury, I don't know if he's like that anymore.
You don't need an Achilles to play cornerback. But 8-8.
Coming in as the 2 seed for me, I have both the 2 seed and the 1 seed for me have the same exact record at 13-3. Let me preface that. So there's not a big gap as far as record, but it's the Rams. And I think they're going to be highly productive with Sean McVay leading the year this year. They just re-signed Jared to a new contract. I think Todd Gurley is going to be solid, not completely return to form what we saw last year. We don't know. We're going to have to wait to see with how his knee is. And they're going to make the playoffs with a 13-3 record, losing the tiebreaker to my 1 seed, the Seahawks.
The fact you got the Seahawks that high is a little bit mind-boggling to me. I got them at 10-6, and that's about as generous as I can be with Russell Wilson running for his life. I mean, I get they got DK Metcalf, but Seattle wide receivers are never really that big a deal. It's always wide receiver by committee. They don't really have a guy, even with Tyler Lockett and Doug Baldwin. It's just not how they play. Their defense has been shattered recently. They lost Earl Thomas, Cam Chancellor over the past few years. The Legion have been completely disassembled. The only one they kept is Bobby Wagner, who I think is the best Mike in football, but at the same time, he's not going to win you a bunch of games just because he's good. And the only thing there.
I think you're glazing over how the talent they have on their defense. Obviously, if everyone's healthy, they just got Jadeveon Clowney.
Jadeveon Clowney has never had a double-digit sack season. One of the best defensive ends or prospects. That narrative needs to die. He is.
I think he's still one of the best outside linebackers in the league, defending the run, pass rushing, and they also signed Ezekiel Ansah this year, who could be a very good pass rusher for them. So I think their defense is going to be good. I think their offense is going to be great with Russell Wilson. And I mean, I already said it, 13-3. I think you're going to see the Seahawks dominate this year along with the Rams.
Quick question.
Depending on how it goes, one of them could wind up wild card, one of them could wind up
before
winning
we move on. What is the name
division.
of the Seahawks starting running back? Exactly.
They have like 3 different running backs. They also led the league in rushing last year.
Moving on to the 1 seed with a stout 12-4 records. A lot of those are going around in my predictions, 3 12-4 teams. I got the Rams. They are now paying the price for their Super Bowl run last year. Their defense has lost some talent. Gurley's knee is dying of arthritis. But at the same time, I still think they'll be a 12-4 team. They're really, really, really good. Jared Goff's going to continue to develop. Kupp is healthy again. Brandon Cooks is healthy. It's going to be a good year for their offense again. Sean McVay, one of the best coaches in the league. I'll join that hype train. But they're not going to be quite as good as last year due to defensive losses.
I mean, I think they also, like I said, I don't know how they might be a little bit less exciting, but the way I have their schedule looking, I think 13-3 is very possible for them. But I could see them dropping a few games, maybe around 12 or 11 wins.
I mean, we're arguing semantics about one win, but that is.
Yeah, but obviously they're both making the playoffs for us.
Not making the playoffs for me.
Oh, the Rams aren't making they're your 1 seed.
No, the Seahawks aren't making the playoffs for me.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But that has been our predictions. My playoff teams are the Eagles at 6, Vikings at 5, which I admit is kind of shaky. Bears at 4, Rams at 3, Cowboys at 2, and Saints at 1.
And for my predictions, to wrap it up, I have the Giants as a 6th seed, the Rams as a 5th seed, the Packers as a 4 seed, Saints as a 3, Seahawks as a 2 seed, and Eagles as the 1 seed this year. We appreciate you guys tuning in for our record predictions. Let us know what you think down below. Probably going to, hopefully we'll see a comment, but if you do comment, I wouldn't be surprised if it is about my New York Giants prediction. Tune in to our next episode where we're going to make our AFC predictions.
You're goading the viewers into commenting how bad you are. I respect it.